So, if you have listened to this podcast for a while, and certainly if you've been one of our clients ever, you've heard me talk about Toby Miller. Sometimes I talk about him, I quote him more than my own thoughts come out in a given episode. And today I had the pleasure of recording a second episode with my boy Toby. A lot has actually unfolded for him since our first episode, so I definitely wanted to cover all the new things like his iboga retreat that he went to, getting sober from alcohol after starting drinking at like age 14, the travel that he and his wife are about to do, the loss of his pup, things like that. And then there were some stories that I wanted to revisit that somehow I failed to extract the first time around, like his crazy story with his biological shrapnel in his arm and the sort of spiritual, symbolic significance there. You like that alliteration. Um, and then we get into some classic Tobyisms and hear him explain them in his own words. And as you listen, you'll know why I'm smirking as I say this. So I won't give you too much of a boring preamble because this episode is really awesome. And I love Toby and his wife, Sherry. I keep asking Sherry to do this podcast, and she keeps saying no because she learned how to set boundaries now, which is annoying. So I love you guys. Hope to see you someday soon in person. And I'm very glad that Toby was down to do this part two episode. I feel like between that first episode and this one, we have encapsulated a good chunk of his wisdom and his experiences with the healing path and with the plant medicine. So if you do nothing other than just listen to these two episodes, you have probably learned a lot that Toby and I have to teach. So thank you for being here. Thank you again to Toby for doing this. Enjoy this episode with my boy Toby Miller. What's the vape that you're hitting over there? Is it just
A
nicotine?
little bit of nicotine, not much. The lowest possible level of
Nice.
nicotine, and I'm actually giving that thing up next. That's my next
Oh
challenge
yeah?
to myself. Quit it. So I just quit sleeping.
Why do you
I just quit.
why do you want to?
I was just man, vaping is not good for you. I mean, it's better than when I was smoking fucking cigars and all of that shit.
Is it though?
Well,
I
I don't
don't
know.
know.
Smoking fucking mini cigars to the tune of 4 or 5 a day and inhaling them was not good. So I
Okay,
was
okay.
hacking and coughing and stuff. And this, I don't hack and cough, but I don't like dependence, you know? So when I learned to get some freedom when we got me off of all the meds and then got some freedom from the booze and changed my relationship, I just sort of have this thing about dependence. Not a big fan of being dependent on. I want to be dependent on as little as I can be. And we want to
Yeah.
travel. And vaping's not conducive with travel,
True.
right? So
I think about that every time I'm on a plane. I'm like, man, people with actual nicotine addictions must really be suffering right now.
gum or patches probably, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's not comfortable for people who are. And I
You using the Zins and things like that?
Yeah, I mean, I never did. I couldn't stand back, man. Back in special operations, everybody dips, right? They all got a lip full
Mm-hmm.
of chewing and a spit bottle or a spit cup, and I always just thought it was disgusting. I couldn't handle it. Even the nicotine addiction aside, I just couldn't handle the spit bottles everywhere.
Dude, the you'll appreciate this, like having been in Peru and smoking like the actual mapacho
Yeah.
there. Because I smoke, I'm gonna be smoking my pipe as we talk, and occasionally I will chew this tobacco. So I buy pipe tobacco that you can also chew. And like growing up, I thought that chewing tobacco was just disgusting and you would like immediately get mouth cancer if you ever did
Of
it.
course.
And you see everyone with the spit bottles. And the first time I chewed it and then I had to spit and I swallowed my spit. And I was like, well, no, dude. I was like, oh, this is nothing compared to doing a tobacco dieta where like we're drinking straight up tobacco juice every day, like just tobacco leaves boiled in water to like a concentrate.
Yeah.
And so I was like, why are people spitting this out, bro? This is nothing. Probably still gross. But I don't do it that often. I do like to smoke the pipe from time to time though,
Yeah.
man.
Well,
You
I
talk
mean,
about not being dependent on things like I'm fucking drinking my cup of coffee today. I realize I don't even like coffee that much. I like the maple syrup and milk that I put in my coffee. So maybe I should just drink that
right?
instead.
Like milk chai in Afghanistan. It was just sweet,
Ooh, that
milky
sounds nice.
tea, right? I'm not a tea
Yeah.
drinker, but milk chai in Afghanistan, the Afghans would make it, and I was just like, hell yeah, I'm in for that.
That sounds fucking awesome, actually. Um, all right, man. I have a handful of topics prepared. Uh, I'm I'm gonna start off with a really rough one, and I'm sorry, man.
Go for it.
But you guys are kind of in this like holding period, waiting to start traveling the world some more until the last of your dogs passes away. And dude, I'm sorry,
It's,
but I want to talk about this,
yeah,
man,
dude. Actually, the
because
window on that is getting really short. His energy levels have dropped. He actually got bit by a brown recluse a while ago and had
oh no,
necrosis in his hip, about a half inch deep
oh
hole in his hip, half inch across and half
oof,
inch deep. It looked remarkably like a gunshot wound, and
yeah,
it's healing and cleaning up. But he's on three pain relievers, three different types of pain reliever a day, and still has trouble moving. He's a 90 to 100 pound Aussie Shepherd purebred, and that's not fat. He's just really huge. He's a giant size. And at 13 years old this month, he's had good innings, man. And so Sherry and I were actually talking about this lately. She pre-grieves, right? So when we
hmm
were losing
hmm
Lucy with her the Malinois with her DM, she would pre-grieve, and it was heartbreaking for her leading up. I am the opposite. I'm very good at being like, I'm going to deal with that when we get there. I know it's coming. Like there's no question in my mind it's coming, and the window is getting very short with Titan. For all we know, we could be talking weeks. We are definitely only talking months. And so for me, I'm sort of like, just leave it, enjoy my time with him. I'll deal with that when it happens. And I did that with Lucy. And what was very interesting is when Lucy passed away, and I'm sure it'll happen with Titan. Sherry gets very down to, okay, now we're down to business. I got to deal with this. How do I, et cetera, et cetera. And I lose it because that's when my grief starts, right? Afterward, I'm like, oh, no, 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 no. And that was literally, I was in the truck driving away from the vet after Lucy was, uh, left us. I was literally screaming, no, no, no. And Sherry is much better dealing with it after it happens, and she pre-grieves it because she's a consequence thinker, and I am a jump in with both feet. It doesn't matter. I'll find out how deep the water is when I get there thinker. So I will deal with it harder when it happens, right?
I mean, maybe that's good for you guys, so one of you is functional at all times while the other is grieving.
Yeah. Also, this
I
the spirituality of it, right, helps me in a big way. I
How's
I
that?
well, I'm a person that really believes. We have talked so many times, and we've known each other for years now, been close for years, you and I. I just have this sort of feeling that we are energy and stardust. When we talk about a person's spirit, that's energy, and science says that energy cannot be destroyed; it just can be transferred or moved, right? So where does that spirit go? Well, I don't claim to know that, but I just have this feeling in my gut when I talk about Lucy, and when I'm sad or something, I can say, "I'll see you again." You know, I don't know where and when, and I don't know how that works, but I will see you again. And so the spirituality really helps me in a lot of ways with this.
Like that a lot. One of our one of our other mentors, Ellen,
Yeah.
she was talking to me the other day because she rescued her dog. She rescued it from Syria when she was over there, and I think when she was on ayahuasca, when she was on mushrooms one time, the medicine told her that that dog was her daughter because she wouldn't have biological children in this lifetime. So like her daughter took the form of this dog so that she could meet her. I don't know about that, maybe,
Well, I don't know, man. If you
but
believe in spirits, I mean, what can and can't
yeah,
spirits
yeah,
do,
why not?
right? I mean, like
Yeah,
I've,
why
I've
not?
I've said to you before, I don't understand quantum physics, but I know it's real. So just because I can't see something, I may just have a feeling that it exists and believe that it's
Yeah.
real, right? Like we have such small senses in our five senses that we talk about, even talking about the dogs that knows 1,000 times better than ours. So where we're like, do I smell something? That dog is like, Jesus, you're flooding my sinuses with this, right? And so, what exists in this world that we cannot see? And I love that. I think the not knowing is incredible.
I know, man. I'm with you on that. Um, with your dogs, I know that one thing that made the passing of Lucy even harder is that You tell me if I'm wrong, but was that like she helped you through so many of your rough times? And this is why I wanted to talk to you, man, about this because I meet a lot of people who feel like their dog straight up saved their life. And I've heard some crazy stories too of like my gun was in my hand and my dog came and like put its paw on my pistol. Or like my dog laid on me all night so I couldn't get up and like go to my gun safe, things like that.
Yeah. Well,
Did you have similar experiences with
I
Lucy?
feel like they have an understanding of your emotion, right? Like they can feel your emotion, and it affects them, but they also understand that they can help and change your emotion, I think. And I
Hmm.
know a lot of people who vets who've been like, my dog was sent here to save me. I, I don't know if that's what Lucy was sent here for, but she certainly did. At my worst, um, at my worst, she was something that was so important to me. I didn't want to leave it. Um, when Sherry and I were not doing well, when I was at my very worst, she part of what anchored her and made it much harder a thought to think about breaking up would be that she couldn't take Lucy from me, and she also couldn't be without her, right? So she was an anchor in the marriage for Sherry for a while before we,
I didn't know you know that.
yeah, till we did all the work and we got healthy again and got sort of to the state that we're at now. Absolutely, that dog was incredible, and to the point like I did not realize that I could have a relationship that important and that loving with an animal. Like it was crazy. Like it felt familial, right? This is family, 100%. And I took the loss as losing family, like losing a kid. But as I said, you have, I mean, I've lost a lot of friends from either combat or suicide, and then even cancer and heart attacks due to probably their service after. You have no choice but to move on. You have to carry on. Nobody would want you to not carry on because they passed away. And it's the same thing with the animal. I mean, Goose is gone, but she'd want me to be as happy as I could be, right? And I'll see her again someday. So it's all good.
Right. Um, with feeling like family or being closer than family, when I teach the loving kindness meditation now, you know how like you start with somebody that like you really love and then you move to like a friend and then a stranger and someone who's wronged you. I usually tell people to think about a pet because sometimes a lot of people have better relationships with a pet than they ever had with biological family.
Absolutely. Family's a
Yeah.
family's a weird creature, right? Like you are tied to them through biology and DNA, whether you agree with them or like them or whether your relationship with them is combative or loving or doesn't matter. You are tied to them, right? And it's very difficult to, you don't get to choose your family, right? You choose your friends.
And your pets.
Yeah,
On that topic, man, of like losing a dog, I feel like this is a good thing to highlight. Like one of the things that we talk about a lot, which is that like both things can be true at the same time. Like there can be so much pain and grief and maybe even anger about like that dog being taken from you, but then there can also be so much love and gratitude for the time that you had with her.
I think that it's only healthy if you can have both things at the same time. If you let grief just eat you without recognizing the good. I mean, there's that saying that dark light exists because dark exists, and good exists because evil can exist. I think that you have to sort of recognize some dichotomy or some togetherness in that. That yes, the Lucy left us very early because she got DM much earlier than she should have. She was still alert and happy and still a alligator or still a fur missile, but but I also am grateful for all the years I had with her and the work that she did with me, the relationship she had with me that helped me so much in my healing. So I'm grateful for all of that. I recognize it when I talk to my maker or my God or however anybody wants to describe it. I'm always grateful for that. You know, yeah, it hurts. There's a hole there, but uh, what's the saying? Better to have loved and lost than to have never loved. you know. And I
Sure.
think that if we, I mean, sometimes bumper sticker philosophers aren't wrong, you know. uh,
Dude, stuff like that gets repeated because it's true.
exactly,
I firmly believe this. Like every cliche that we roll our eyes at, it's only a cliche. Like it only gets repeated because it remains true.
absolutely. There's some
Always.
truth in it always, right?
Yeah.
I have a thing
So that's some.
for bumper sticker philosophy, right? I've got, you know, uh,
Oh, dude, we're
like,
gonna get to yours.
well, Jimmy Buffett, right? This is new. Breathe in, breathe out,
Hell
move
yeah.
on. You know, like,
Hell yeah.
yeah, it sounds kind of trite, but I think it's got value. You know, if all of us recognize that you can just breathe in, breathe out, and move on, sometimes there'd be a lot less grieving and a lot less sad. You know,
Yeah, but man, that's easier said than
oh,
done. And
100%.
so, like, the holding two things, right? Like the gratitude and the pain, pretty easy to see how that applies to something like the loss of a pet or a loved one. Talk to me about how that applies to some of the, we'll call it more gruesome shit that somebody might go through. Because I use you as an example of this quite a bit. So I kind of want to just hear it from the horse's mouth, if you will.
Yeah, I
You know,
mean,
because you've been through a lot of things that it's someone would find a hard time being grateful for those things.
sure. It's and I mean I'm grateful for much of it. There are things that have happened to me that I'm not grateful for. You know, I mean, certainly sexual abuse was something that I would not. I don't know that I could find gratitude for, but I can find forgiveness for. We've discussed that so much in the courses and stuff. But the things that people would obviously go to, like getting blown up overseas, and some of the crap that happened to me on 3 tours in Afghanistan and in my service, loss of friends, Bobby, my dog handler, losing his legs right beside me, having his leg bones punched into my arm as shrapnel, that kind of crap. Yeah, it's tough. It's all horrible, ugly, ugly stuff. How do I find any gratitude for it? Well, I find gratitude for it because I look in the mirror every day now after doing the work I've done and working with medicine and working with myself and with others. And I look in the mirror now and I think, hey, that's a pretty good dude. That's a good guy right there. And you get there through accumulation of all the things you've experienced in your life, not just the good, but the bad as well. The bad teach you to be perhaps more sympathetic, more understanding, more empathetic towards people who are suffering. The bad teaches you, to maybe have a little better understanding of human condition and things like that. So I can find gratitude in those things that have happened to me because they made me who I am, and if you get to a point where you can look at yourself in the mirror and show a little self-love, uh, you know, uh, then where does that come from? That's an accumulation of all of the moments that you've lived in this life. And I hit 56 years old this month, a month ago, and that's 56 years worth of moments of it and lessons. And you can bemoan them and bitch about them, but it's not going to make your life better to do so. It'll make your life better fulfilled to just find some gratitude in the things that happened, even the bad, and say, it taught me this, or it made me this, or it led more towards me being this kind of human being.
I'm glad that you summed it up that way because it means that I have not been mischaracterizing it whenever I've shared your story with somebody, where it's like there's something that, there can be things that happen to me that I would not wish this to happen to my worst enemy. And maybe I could kind of wish that it didn't happen to me. And I'm certainly not going to say I'm grateful that this thing occurred, but I can recognize that this is part of who I am now. And when I look at myself, who I am now, I've gotten to a place where I actually love myself and accept every single thing about me. And I'm proud of who I am. And therefore, it's almost like the transitive property, right? Like if A equals B and B equals C, then A equals C. So
Exactly.
this is part of who I am. I like who I am. So I guess to apply that logic, we can find gratitude in it. Not that I'm stoked this thing happened
Yeah,
to me,
I'm not
but
happy it happened. I'm not even necessarily grateful that it did happen. I'm grateful for what I
right.
became out of it, right? And
That's a good way
and
to put it.
that's, I think,
That's a good
more
way to put it.
important to sort of recognize that if you love yourself and you find gratitude for yourself and love for yourself, that you are the product of all of those experiences, good and bad. And so without the bad, I wouldn't be this person that I love, right? I'd be somebody entirely different.
That's right.
So,
That's
yeah,
right.
I mean, it absolutely. It's not an easy concept, and it's not an easy thing to do. It's, as you say, easier said than done sometimes.
Well, you mentioned forgiveness too. And yes, we have talked about that extensively in the course, but the whole purpose of this
Right.
podcast is for the people who haven't gone through the course with you. So I need to ask you questions to elucidate it. Talk to me about like forgiveness versus maybe the word is atonement. Because like I talk about this all the time, right? Like I believe in second chances. I believe that everybody can be saved, but I also believe in the death penalty for pedophiles. They get another chance in their next reincarnation. So like how do we balance like forgiveness with justice maybe is the word?
Yeah. I mean, man, the search for justice in this world is sometimes a zero sum game. Justice is very hard to find, and justice is personal, right? It's subjective. It's people's
Mm,
your opinion of what justice is for something is not what the other person's opinion is. You know, I talk about the guy that set the IED that uh, that took me and a couple other guys out. You know, how do I forgive that? Well, what happened to me was justice to him. You know, I was the invader. I'm the
yeah,
fucking bad
yeah,
guy. I'm in
yeah,
his country with a gun.
yeah.
I'm the one hunting people in his country.
Huh.
I am the bad man as far as he's concerned. And so that was justice that I got blown up. For me, you
Hmm.
know, do I go, oh, I hope that the team hunts him down and whacks him? That would be justice for me because I look at it from my viewpoint. And if you can part of forgiveness, I think, is learning to look at things from other viewpoints and other people's viewpoints. You remember when you started, you talk about you've got their viewpoint, your viewpoint, and if you can take a third party approach to it. But I think that looking from their viewpoint is very important as well. You know, I now understand that, yeah, okay, I know what we were trying to do in Afghanistan, whether we accomplished it or not. I know what we were there for. I know what the mission purpose was. I know what we hoped to do for that country and those people. But I also understand that we flew in on airplanes covered in guns and armor and wandered around, and that we engaged in some serious death and destruction, and we dealt out a lot of misery while doing some good things, building schools, building roads, building bridges, etc. But we were, I mean, we could call fire in from the sky for God's sake. And if somebody was doing that to my culture and my country, I'd probably think, hey, I should start setting some IEDs for this son of a bitch, So I managed through work and through the courses and the medicine to come around to be able to look at the other side in a lot of these things. And when I can see it from someone else's side, it's much easier to have some forgiveness. And if not real full forgiveness, understanding. I get it. I get it. I got it. I know what you did, what you did. You know, I'm not happy
Yeah.
about it. Again, not happy, but I understand it, you know?
And I think that's kind of maybe that's far enough of a place to get to because in our context we talk about forgiveness and letting go and really just the idea is to not let this be another rock in your backpack that doesn't need to be there.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, understanding, if not forgiveness, at least understanding is enough for you to not harbor anger, maybe. If the thing is, like we say, it's like drinking poison and hoping that it hurts the other person. The only
Yep.
person you're harming by harboring that stuff continuously is you. And first off, I love this guy and I don't want to do that to him. And I'm not harming you by hating you or being angry at you for what you did to me. But if I can come to understand it, then I can perhaps put some of that anger down and just be like, okay, I don't need to carry this. It's in the past. It happened. I understand why you did it. I understand what led to it. And not in this case with the IED maker, the bomb maker, etc., the guy who dug it, the guy who planted it, the guy who set the trigger, everything. I can have some actual forgiveness for all of that because my understanding led me to be able to have forgiveness for that. But in some cases, yeah, it's going to be just understanding, but understanding might be enough for you to let go of the anger or the rage or the damage
Totally.
or the trauma a bit.
Speaking of letting go and not carrying things. So this is a story that I didn't bring up the first time around. I want to make sure that we hit, and you even mentioned it before. Talk to me about the biological shrapnel.
Yeah, well, so that's a very clinical term for. shrapnel that enters your body that is not necessarily parts of the bomb or the explosion, right? You if you set when a bomb hits somewhere or a hand grenade goes off, it throws out fragmentations of metal. With an IED, what happens because they're sitting underground is they launch out rock and dirt and whatever they were buried underneath of, and in some cases, when somebody has directly stepped on it and their extremities, their legs get blasted, some of that shrapnel is bone, right? So when Bobby triggered the IED and he stepped on it, I was only about, I don't know, 5, 6 feet off of his shoulder. And I had, you know, uh, ballistic shades on, I had helmet, I had body armor. I'm loaded for bear, right? But my sleeves were bare and my face was bare, and I took some shrapnel in both my arm and my face. And the shrapnel, when I got to the hospital at Kandahar, the Roll 3, they were like, yeah, they're picking some stuff out of me, and they're like dropping it into a metal container. And I said, what is it? And he's like, well, it's biological shrapnel. It's rock and some bone. And it's not my bones, so you know whose it is, right? And that's, I mean, it's tough. It was at the time it was a big shock, but it's a violation of your body, and anything shrapnel wise is a violation of your body, and it doesn't really make a difference whether it's shards of bone or metal. And in honesty, the damage done by shards of bone and a bit of rock is probably less than had I taken a bunch of metal to the face and the arm, right?
Sure.
So again, gratitude. It wasn't a bunch of metal
Well,
shrapnel
sure.
that took me out, because the likelihood is I would not be here, you know.
Well, that's for sure. Opportunity for gratitude. But what I found really interesting about this part of your story was how, and you correct me if I'm misremembering this, but you had the wound on your arm that like never fully, the scab sort of never fully healed because you were always picking at it and picking at it, right?
Yeah, so I mean, one of the things that happened to me psychologically was that we get that attachment to a trauma, attachment to an incident, maybe, right? So to me, I had an attachment to this explosion and this trauma that had affected me. And one of the things I did was I would scratch at the scars on my arm until they would bleed and scab up a bit. Then once, of course, they've scabbed up, now you're scratching and picking at them more. And it was a very much a psychological effect of me just trying to keep sort of this alive in myself. I don't know necessarily, but it disappeared when we went to Peru and did ayahuasca. It was incredible to me. We didn't even notice it, Sherry and I. And then it was like a couple months later, and one of us was like, "Hey, I haven't. Oh, wow, that's gone, right?" Like it, and so that's why I know it was definitely a psychological thing. And I think it was, we've talked about it a lot of time with veterans and first responders who get wounded or get injured or have trauma, and they attach themselves to that trauma because once they leave the service, they're no longer a soldier or a police officer. What are you? Well, you're now a wounded guy or a wounded veteran, and you attach yourself to that trauma. And for me, that was part of the attachment, I think. I had a piece of Bobby's leg bone that sat in my forearm, and it sort of, a few of them pushed out over time, right? Like they would just push out. Um, this one particularly, my body sort of encapsulated, and it left a lump in my arm for the longest time. It's barely there now. I can just sort of see a little scar from it, but yeah, it was there for a very long time, and I think that was sort of wanting to keep the trauma alive, maybe keeping a bit of Bobby alive, maybe keeping the incident alive, because the incident had taken out my career, a career I absolutely loved. I'd still be working, hopefully, in special operations, but I'd still be soldiering today if I could. It took me down because it broke my psyche, and it certainly screwed up my body. So I attached to it so heavily that I just didn't want to let it go, right? And the medicine, the ayahuasca, just sort of took that away.
Yeah, I thought that was like so poetic, this physical representation of the mental attachment to it, and then the medicine helping you to let go of it, and it finally heals, and your body literally lets go of these fragments it had been
I
carrying.
tell the story of that night that we were in the Maloka, and Michael, the
Hmm.
the
The shaman?
yeah, the shaman,
That's a shaman?
uh,
The maestro,
had,
yeah,
had
yeah.
come in, and he sat in front of me, and Sylvie came and sat in front of me, and she sang Ikaro, and then she moved on, and then he came and sat in front of me, and he sang Ikaro. And I remember, I told you, I remember, like, he just grabbed me by the head, and he pulled my skull up to his face, and he starts going, and then he tosses me back, and he grabs a bucket and pukes his guts out. And I remember you and I asked him the next day, what the hell was that? And he said, you had some things you were not willing to get rid of, so I took them. Right. And uh, I,
Good dude.
I tell that story, and it's so funny because I know that my attachment to those traumas and those injuries were really solid. And I know that he's right. There was stuff that I was still sitting in that Maloka, even on night 3 and 4, ceremony 3 and 4. And I was like, I'm not quite ready to let go yet. Right. And so he was like, no, I'm
Yeah.
taking that shit from you.
Yeah, dude, that's something I've been sitting with quite a bit lately. Is just those things that like I say that I want to move past, and like deep down inside I'm like, do I though? Like there's there's a clip circulating right now of Theo Vaughn on his podcast telling a story of like a man who asked Jesus to heal him, and Jesus says, "Do you really want to be healed?" And Theo's like kind of wrestling with it because he's like, "Man, I know that part of me kind of doesn't." And yeah, I don't know, dude. Just something I'm thinking about quite a lot right now. As Cordy is 3 months pregnant, and I got a lot of shit to sort out over the
Jerry and I
next
were having
six
a big
months.
chat about this over the last week. A couple of nights we talked about it, because we're not actually mentoring and stuff right now. We're still, I mean, most of our friends are veterans and stuff like that, just even friends online and stuff. And so
I talk about you guys every
still
week.
involved in
You're
the
you're still
veteran
actively
community and all
mentoring.
the rest of it. And I was saying the other day to her, I said, the thing about plant medicine and about psychedelic therapy and about a lot of this stuff that's not traditional modality stuff is that it winds up feeling like last resort because people come to it when nothing else is working, as I did, right? It was my last hope. Let's
Yep.
go.
Yep.
But that's a necessity because if you want this stuff to work, you have to want it to work. You have to be willing to fucking put your shit down and walk away from it. And that is not an easy thing. There's so many people that are so heavily attached to the trauma they've been through or to their service or to their experience that suggesting to somebody that how desperate do you have to be prepared to walk away from that completely, right? And so there is
Yeah,
an
man.
element of desperation there, but I think just by its nature, it's sort of almost has to wind up being sort of the last resort because you've come to it at a point where you're like, I don't know what the hell else to do. I need to get rid of this.
Yeah, I think you're
I
right.
gotta get rid of this now. And that's when people are down to Ambio doing ibogaine and 5-MeO, or they're going to Peru and doing ayahuasca, or they're going and they're doing psychedelic therapy with psilocybin, or any of them. It's a state of coming to a point of being like, okay, I have tried everything and it's not working now. I'm desperate. And we call, we talk about having to be called to the medicine, but maybe some of that desperation is you reach that desperation and the medicine says, come here,
Yeah.
come here,
Yeah, I think you're right.
you know.
I think you're right. It's like, that phrase like if you're looking for something, you're like, "Oh, I found it in the last place I would have looked." Well, yeah, it was the last place you looked. You stopped looking after you found it. Like
Exactly.
it's almost like that where it's the last resort and then it's the thing that works, but you wouldn't have come to it if those other things
No,
would have worked that you
nobody
tried
nobody says,
before.
hey, I'm feeling a bit fucked up. I'm going to do ayahuasca. People are like, I'm feeling a
Yeah.
little bit fucked up. I'm going to go see a psychologist. I'm going to go see a therapist. I'm going to go get on some antidepressants. I'm going to get on
Yeah.
SNRIs, SSRIs, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And if that doesn't work, you know, then you start to, it's like you and I have said, all of a sudden you just notice a clip on Instagram that happens to be about psychedelic therapy or something. You go, oh, what's this, right? But you're at a point of sort of desperation of looking for help, right? And having not been able to find it, and then you come to the medicine or you come to a program, and it's like, holy shit! But when we would tell people all the time, you and I, that you have to be willing to put everything down. You have to be willing to walk away from that and leave your trauma behind you. Uh, That's 100% true. And I the reason that modern therapy didn't work well for me and everything else, all of this stuff, I didn't want it to. I understand myself enough now and love myself enough now to be truthful about it. I just didn't fucking want it to work. I wanted
I
to
know.
wallow in my injuries and wounds. I'm not good enough to be a soldier or to serve in special operations anymore. I'm just gonna lay here and wallow, and that's much easier to do when you have all this traumatic weight to lay under like a blanket, and how do you get rid of that? Well, you have to get desperate and you have to decide that you really do want to get rid of it.
If there's any shortcut to that point.
I don't know. I mean, I think so. I mean, we've all the stuff that we've put out onto the internet, you and I, about and so many others about psychedelic therapy and what it's done for people and all of the positives and all of the success stories and all the rest of it. I think that they're part of shortcuts because then maybe people will see it before they get to, the point that I was at, being fucking taken down by the RCMP on my front lawn in a felony takedown at gunpoint. You don't want to get to that point first. You want to get people before that. Um, but I also think that they have to have it in their head that I'm willing to dive into this, you know, and I'm willing to accept that it might work.
That's kind of the thing. And the reason I'm asking about this, the other day we were talking to somebody who's saying how, his 15-year-old son keeps fucking up and he's trying to get him on a better path and everything. And he's like, I can see the path he's on is inevitable of like he's gonna get in a lot of trouble and he's gonna get arrested. We're talking about like how do you actually reach someone like that? Because I think a lot of people, myself included, are so hard-headed that like I won't learn a lesson until I've made the mistake and felt the pain of it. And then I could look at all the advice everyone had always given me and been like, "Oh yeah, that's what they were talking about."
Right.
But it's meaningless until I've like felt that pain. And so that's why I'm asking, can you accelerate that maybe where like hey, you don't have to actually lose your wife and kids to get your shit together?
Sure. Well, I mean, I've had that saying forever: heal out loud so others don't suffer in silence, right? Or so others
Hmm.
might not suffer in silence. I've been very open about my healing. I've been very open about my traumas, about sexual abuse survival, about combat trauma, about all of it, and I do so because I think that, well, first off, it's kind of cathartic for me, to be honest. There is some something for myself in it, but also it is because I can maybe help someone. Maybe somebody's going to see that and go, "Oh, I get that. I'm right there. I've been there, uh, and nothing's working. What do I do? Well, maybe I could try this, right?" I mean, I didn't just, this didn't just happen for me to get into this. It was Gabor Mate, hearing Gabor Mate speak, and then a couple of U.S. Special Operations guys speaking who had already delved into this. Guys who, even though I didn't know them, I had nothing but respect and time for them, and I was like, wow, okay, maybe this is the answer. So you perpetuate that by continuing to tell the stories and tell the good, right? I mean, there's a saying that a smart man learns from his own mistakes. A really smart man learns from other people's mistakes, and that's what we're trying to perpetuate, right? Learn from me.
That's
Learn
right.
that you don't have to get to a felony takedown on your lawn. You can get some help before that, right? Like that's don't
Ideally, yeah.
you know? So,
Oh man. All right, well, hey, we're skipping ahead a little bit on my plan, but I was going to ask you about the Tobyism. So heal out loud so others don't have to suffer in silence. That was number one. I think we hit that. It's pretty self-explanatory, but I like it. Break this one down for me. Grace versus slack. Explain that.
yeah. Well, actually, and I mean, I don't get all the credit for this. A buddy of mine, Chase, talked about it, and I just sort of expanded it. But when you get up in the morning and you don't feel like going to the gym, and you just don't feel like it, and you're like, I'm just not going to go. That's slack. That's giving your cut. That's slack. You get up in the morning. I get up in the morning, and my hip, which needs replacing, is aching like a son of a bitch, and I'm like, I don't think I can do it. It's going to do damage to me. That's grace. You know, it's sort of almost like, are you being lazy or do you really need this? Right? Is this an excuse, or are you coming up with excuses, or do you really need this? Grace versus slack. You need to offer yourself grace. That's important. When you're mentally needing a break, you need to give yourself the grace of the break. When you physically need a break, you give yourself the grace of the break. If you're just not feeling it and just can't be bothered, well, that's slack. And a little slack on occasion is not the end of the world. But it's an equation you sort of can ask yourself when you're saying, I just don't think I can do that right now. Why am I saying that? Do I need grace, or am I just looking for some slack here? And how much slack have I had lately? You know?
Yeah. Have I used my Slack allowance for this month?
Yeah.
All right. So, by the way, Tobyisms are phrases that I've heard so often that they've just become a staple of our program. So, heal out loud so others don't have to suffer in silence. Classic Tobyism. I know you gave your buddy credit, but I give you credit for grace versus slack. My personal other favorite Tobyism that I'll give you a chance to comment on if you'd like to is that you gotta fuck with the dick God gave you.
A lot of people go through this life wanting things to be different, man. Everybody wants to
Hmm.
be, everybody wants to be, I wish I could be this. I wish I could be that. And some of those things you can change. Some of those things you can affect. I wish I had bigger biceps. Okay, go lift weights. You'll get bigger biceps. I wish I had a bigger dick. That's not happening. The way life is the way your world is you have to fuck with the dick you got. And that's just reality. And change the things you can change if they're good for you, and accept the things you can't and just let it go. Some of this stuff we talk about
Yeah,
Tobyisms, some of it's like that 12-step stuff, right? Lord, give me the,
I was gonna say that's the serenity
right?
prayer right
It is.
there.
You got to
Lord, give
fuck
me
with the
the
dick you
what is it?
got.
The grace to accept the things that I can't change, the strength to change the things that I can, and the discernment to know the difference, or something like
Right.
that.
In other words, you got to
There you
fuck with the
go.
dick you got. Man,
That's right.
man, I just sort of, I mean, like I said, bumper sticker philosophy, right? How do you take
Oh, dude,
how
I
do you
want that
take
bumper sticker.
a a large concept and thought and make it 6 words so it fits on a bumper sticker? You know,
Dude, we got to make these. We're gonna sell them on our
I'm not the
website. Oh
brightest
my
guy in the
god,
world. I need it dummied down for me, kind of thing, right? And so yeah, I
incredible.
just there are things in this world that you cannot change and you'll have to learn to accept. And they're the things that, you were given in this life and that you're stuck with. And, you know, so be it. Learn to accept it
Right,
and
man.
maybe have some gratitude for it again, right?
Dude. Oh my god. All right, on this very serious note that we're on,
I was wondering if
let's
you were going to pick
let's
that one
talk.
up or not. I wasn't sure if it was going to be
Oh, dude,
podcast
100%.
safe.
100%. I told Cordy my idea this morning, and I was like, I don't know if I should do that on the podcast. And she was like, you'd have to do that. All right, for real. Recentering, refocusing. Since our last talk, you went and did ibogaine down in Mexico. Remind me where you went. You went to
Actually, I
Beyond.
was in Toronto. I was in Toronto. There's
You're in. I'm
yeah,
sorry.
no,
I'm
there's
sorry. I'm so used to it just being in
a
Mexico.
guy I know who has done a lot of time with the
That's right.
Buwiti
That's
tribe.
right. Yeah, this was with
Yeah,
Jay. Remind me his
yeah,
name.
Jay. I can't even pronounce the last name he goes by because it's his Buwiti name. He's
Yeah.
been
Okay.
indoctrinated to the Buwiti tribe in Gabon in Africa,
Gabon. Yeah. Yeah.
and has been trained by them to give iboga, not ibogaine, iboga, the
Right.
root, the African root that ibogaine is then synthesized from,
Derived
right?
from.
So
Yeah.
I went and did it because I had done so much healing with the experience with you and with becoming home, and I'd done so much stuff and I'd made so much progress. But prior to all of that, I mean, my way of dealing with things was alcohol, right? It was part of my way. I was just hammering back the booze, and where my booze had gotten lower after the healing, it still was way too much, and that was habit, and that was probably at that point now had become addiction, not so much a dependency, but an addiction. And so I was like, maybe I'll give this a try. I keep hearing about iboga or ibogaine and its assistance with addictions and stuff like that. So I talked to Jay, who I had sort of known online for a solid year or more, just because I know a lot of people in the plant medicine circles that I don't necessarily ever meet, but I talk to. And Jay was like, "Hey, it
Yep.
happens that I'm running a ceremony, and do you want to come and try it then if you're interested?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm in." So I flew out and I did it, and I went from 20. ounces of vodka or booze a day to zero in a weekend. And stayed completely sober for 13, 14 months. Didn't have a drop, didn't bother me. It wasn't really like I was like, oh, I'm jonesing. There was none of that. And then at 13 or 14 months, we were both like, okay, maybe it's time to see if we have a relationship with alcohol that can be healthy or not. It's up to you, right? And if you cannot, then the answer is you're back to zero, and you can do it because you've already done it. And so you know allowed ourselves, yeah. And now it's like, want to have a glass of wine with dinner, have a glass of wine with dinner, but there's no call to me that I have to get drunk. And I think maybe I've probably been in the last year impaired, really, once or twice, and that's because I was at a function with friends or family or something, and I had allowed myself a couple more, and I was like, whoa, okay, yeah, I don't need that because I really don't. It's a relationship.
How did you feel about that after? Like when you actually got like impaired? Like were you mad at yourself or like was it still fun while it
There's a
happened?
question of
Like
disappointment, right? I mean, in the morning especially, you're
yeah,
like, man, am
sure.
I this could be a slippery slope, right? Like you got to watch. I don't want to get back to. I won't ever get back to. I won't be that guy again. I won't, So
Mhm.
the next morning the instinct is to sort of give yourself shit. But then when we talk about forgiveness to yourself is very, very important. I mean, forgiveness to yourself is probably the most important. And so I was just like, okay, next time do better. Next time just sort of recognize that. Oh, wait a second. Yes, this is a party, but you don't have to get a buzz. It's if you want to have a social drink or two in amongst everybody, that's fine over the course of an evening, but it's not a requirement to get impaired or feel impaired, right? So yeah, it's very interesting to have gone from a dependency and an addiction to what is now a relationship that is sort of a give or take. We talk about our world
Yeah.
travel, and we're like, we're going to go to some places where we talk about going to some places like, in Turkey, yeah, you can get a drink, but it's not that easy, etc. And I'm like, yeah, that's okay. You know, it doesn't bother me. It's not, it's
Yeah, that's another reason to get rid of the vape too, I bet.
100%. Yeah. And it's like, it's exactly
Start
those,
smoking
those are
hookah
sort
out
of
there.
things that will anchor you or can make
Yeah.
your decisions for exploration and uh,
Limited.
limited. And I don't
Right.
have that anymore. It's like, if we're going to go somewhere where you can't drink, okay, we're going somewhere where you can't drink. All right, good enough.
Right.
Like, and that's such a huge change for me. I mean, I probably as a trauma survivor from a young age, I probably started drinking. Well, I did start drinking, weekends and partying and stuff probably when I was about 14. So I had a lifelong habit there. And it's very interesting to have been able to walk away from it for a fair while and then to come back and have it be completely different, to have it be sort of hey, wait a second, I'm in charge, and part of that is looking in the mirror and
Right.
saying, hey, I like this guy, right?
Yeah, you don't have something to run from or to medicate or to numb
Not
anymore.
hiding from anything
Uh
anymore. I'm not trying to bury anything anymore. I'm
yeah.
not trying to escape from anything anymore. I'm not going to, I go to the gym 5 days a week and lift weights. And if I had too much booze into me, well, that's going to impair my ability to go and lift weights tomorrow morning. And I get a massive high out of lifting weights. I just love it. I get a rush and I feel good. And I don't want to give that up, you know, like, so there would be a trade off. If I went back to drinking,
Yeah.
there's a trade off. I'm not going to do this anymore. Well, this feels good and is good for me, right? Where, the drinking, sure, it could feel good sometimes, but it doesn't feel good the next day and it's not good for you. So which one am I going to hold on?
Pretty easy math when you look at it that way.
Yeah.
You said a second ago at that so like you did all this healing with the ayahuasca, the mushrooms and everything, but you still were drinking so much. You said you had an addiction but not a dependency. How do
Well,
you what's the difference in your
I
mind?
don't know. That might not be the right word. I think that I had a physical, like, my body would needed alcohol and it was not even so much any.
Right, like a chemical
Yes. Yeah. It
dependency. Like
wasn't,
if I don't drink coffee
it,
today, I have a headache from the
right.
withdrawal.
Yeah. It wasn't about,
Right.
oh, I need it so that I can forget this or I can do this or
I
I don't have to
understand.
deal with this or
Right.
whatever. It was,
Right.
I've been drinking heavy for so long that I need to have a drink or my
Right.
body's not going to be happy. I'm not going to sleep. I'm going to be a
Got it.
mess, etc. And so
So
that
it's
was what
not
I
that you
needed to get
needed
rid of.
it spiritually or emotionally. It's like the I've altered the chemistry of my
Yeah,
body to run on 5% ethanol at all times.
absolutely. It was no different than when
Yeah.
the 8 times clinical dosage of the SNRI I was on per steak, of 400
Yeah.
milligrams a day.
Yeah.
My body was dependent upon that, had a chemical dependency upon it. And coming off of it was the worst feeling, one of the worst experiences of my life, just pulling myself away from that. And the psilocybin absolutely was instrumental in my being able to do it. But the microdosing, but man, that dependency was like, wow, this is hard, you know?
It's a real thing. Yeah. Yeah. So having done both, well, having microdosed, done ayahuasca, and now done iboga. I know most people listening to this, if they're interested, would probably be looking at
Yeah.
ibogaine, not iboga. Like most people are kind of doing that. So I know you can't speak exactly to that, but how might you kind of categorize the similarities or differences and what that experience was like? And of course, you can only speak with the order that you did things
Yeah.
in.
I mean,
So,
so I was actually thinking about this morning when we were walking Titan. It, Ayahuasca is massive. It's like it's a big thing. Like, the with the psilocybin and the microdosing, it's incremental and small. And do you notice
yeah,
how much you're changing, etc.? You walk out of the jungle and you're like, holy shit, I am not the same human being, you know, because and with psilocybin, hero dosing could be the same thing. But when you talk about microdosing, it's incremental small changes, and you're engaging in habit changes with it, lifestyle changes with it, and so you don't necessarily notice how much you're changing. And at the end of it,
totally.
you do it for a long period, and at the end of it, you're like, oh wow, I'm not that dude anymore. There's a
It's funny.
cumulative.
I find it's like half my job is just to point out the changes people have made because they don't see it themselves. They don't give themselves credit. It's like the thing of like boiling a lobster. Like you don't drop it into boiling water.
Yes.
It's like you heat it up and it
Yeah.
doesn't notice it. That's probably a bad analogy, but you
No,
get what I'm
and the
saying.
ayahuasca is massive. It's like, this is it's a difference between like, you know, uh taking penicillin for something or a surgery. Ayahuasca is the surgery, right? This is a big event. And iboga was sort of the same way, but less. I don't know. There was less psychedelic to it than I felt with the Aya. I think that of all of the Aya was the most, absolutely the most transformative in my life. I mean, absolutely the most transformative. Night terrors and nightmares gone, rage gone, anger gone, much of my depression gone. Um, you know, and that was 5 ceremonies, and those were huge factors in my life, huge factors. They were costing me my marriage, they were costing me my time with my children, they did cost me my job in the military, all of that, and they all changed in 5 nights. Like, so that's a huge effect for like we used to say in the service, effect on target. uh Ayahuasca was big bang for the buck, like effect on target is,
I mean, hey, to give credit to the iboga though, like
oh,
you had one objective and 100%
right.
success on that one
Absolutely.
objective.
But as you know, and I know, intention is everything in this game, right? Like,
Yeah,
you have to have intention. And yes, ayahuasca may show you something that's different from your intention, but you still went into it with intention. And in your heart and in your mind, that's what you're seeking. And I think that there's going to be some effect on that anyway, right? So when I walk into iboga,
totally.
and Jay's like, "What are you looking to heal, etc." I'm like, "I'm good, dude. I just came out of the jungle in Peru. I'm good. I got to get off the booze. Period." Okay. And that's what I'm after from it, right? And so huge effect again, yes, absolutely. And one, I did 2 ceremonies. The second ceremony really was not as transformative or effective. I didn't really feel it as much, but the first ceremony was like, boom, okay, hey, I don't need a drink. I'm not craving a
Yeah,
drink. That's weird, but
yeah.
yeah.
Doesn't surprise me then that the second was pretty like
Well,
lackluster,
and so when I
if you
talked to
will.
Jay and
Like,
and he had another guy had come up from Mexico, another practitioner, about it, and they were both like, dude, you've been doing psychedelic therapy for years, and you just did ayahuasca in the last year. I, I don't know what you're looking for the medicine to do for you that hasn't been done, right? You were looking for something and you
that's
got
it.
it.
Yeah. That's
So
exactly it. I was gonna say when you said the iboga was like kind of less psychedelic, I feel like that's probably why. I've told this story before. You know, and when I was drinking ayahuasca for the first time, I was like, "Where are all the visions? Where's all the cool stuff I'm supposed to see?" And the medicine was literally like, "You've seen all the fun colors on LSD. You're here to think about shit.
it,
Like, I'm not gonna show you colors just to have fun."
yeah, and one of the things that people who are going to be sort of listening to this, and like you said, they'd be more knowing about ibogaine, right? Particularly because like In Waves and War just
Yeah,
came out on Netflix, right? About the
yeah.
boys at
It's the
Ambio.
hot topic right now.
Um, it's there's also the 5-MeO that goes on to the end of those ceremonies with most ibogaine ceremonies for first responders and trauma and
Did
stuff.
did you do that?
I did not do 5-MeO.
Okay.
I know some guys who have. I've heard their stories, and I know that it was very transformative for them, hugely so. I mean, my friend Gordo, who runs All the Way, he just came
Hmm.
back from Ambio with a
Yep.
group of
Yep.
five or six female Canadian vets who were all sort of certainly they were had all been involved in they had all been involved in sexual trauma, military sexual trauma, right? A couple of them in combat stuff, and so it caused, I mean, huge trauma, and he took them down, which I thought was amazing because it was just a group of women doing this, right? Doing ibogaine and 5-MeO, and the results have been spectacular. You know, Unfortunately, Canada is not uh, keeping up with this very well. We're not moving quick enough. We're actually starting to look like we're going backwards in some ways. I heard the other day that Veterans Affairs Canada will no longer even be paying for ketamine therapy, which is I can't get my head
Dude,
around it. I know we're we're sitting in an age of budget cuts in this country right now, and Veterans Affairs is no safety from being victims of these budget cuts. But for Christ's sake, cutting therapy? Are you insane? Like, come on, do better.
especially like one of the more cost effective options available for people.
And done with a
Yeah,
doctor
it
and
makes no sense.
like there's not
Yeah,
this is why
it's
how people
nonsense.
wind up in Chad's basement in North Vancouver doing ayahuasca instead of going with a practitioner, a proper practitioner.
Dude,
Right?
it's funny you say that. We've got a guy who like just signed up for the program today. Who shout out to you. You'll be listening to this. He was looking at a 5-MeO retreat in Vancouver that was like $8,000 or $10,000 or something. And Cordy was like, "It's like 15 minutes to do 5-MeO DMT. Like, what are they charging you for?"
Well, I
So
mean,
I
this is it. Once it becomes a hot topic and a topic of conversation, it becomes sort of a thing where, even the President of the United States is signing executive orders to open up some research and stuff. When you get to that point, of course, all of the the grifters and charlatans are going to look to make money, right?
Yep,
And
yep, yep.
uh, this is as I've said it a zillion times, and I was actually talking to a guy at the gym about it today, and I'm like, this is not something you would ever party with. None of these substances are something you'd party with. I mean, psilocybin, sure. Remember you and I mean, saying to you once in the group, I said, yeah, you can use psilocybin and you can work with psilocybin, and they're two different things,
Mm,
right?
totally.
And I used psilocybin when I was a teenager, and I've worked with psilocybin in my adult life. They're two different things, but nobody is going to do ayahuasca or iboga for fun. These aren't ever going to be party drugs. So and they obviously have medicinal value. I mean, Jesus, just anecdotally out there, you can tell that this stuff is doing stuff for people, and we continue to bury our heads and ignore it, right? And we could very well be making it safely accessible. People are going to do it anyway. We could be making it safely accessible, And as I've told you a million times, my concern with making it safely accessible is, of course, we put it into a clinical setting and we take all of the spirituality out of it, all of the
Dude,
magic, right?
100%. 100%. I'm glad that the government is kind of like moving to accept this stuff, but also it's like, oh, the government, like the same people who run the DMV, we're gonna trust them now to run this? Like, are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah,
the people who can't do anything right ever.
Right? Takes you 5 months
Yeah.
to give me my tax return. I'm going to trust you to give me ayahuasca. Yeah.
Yeah, dude,
It's
exactly.
yeah. I
So,
mean, I'm not a big government guy. I'm at heart a little bit of a libertarian, right? I want the least amount of government crap in my life as I can have.
yeah,
But you know, if their involvement is what it takes to make this actually for us to be able to help people, I mean, I live close to Vancouver, which has got uh, Vancouver's downtown east side, which is the streets are just covered in addicts, like passed out opioid addicts, etc. If ibogaine can help this, then why the hell aren't we doing it? Like we just talk. Oh, we'll just make more safe injection sites. We'll do this. We'll do this. Well, but there's I understand harm reduction is important, but if there's a treatment available, then why aren't we doing something about it, right? Because it is, because back when Timothy O'Leary and all the hippies were, hammering away psychedelics, the government freaked out and said, "Scary, all of that stuff's bad." And what did we reap out of that? Well, okay, yeah, people weren't doing psychedelics for fun for the last 40 years, but also we lost out on an opportunity to get research for the last 40 years. And we're so far behind on the research now, and still have that attitude that these drugs are scary and bad and that they're drugs and not medicine. They can't be medicine, they can only be
yeah,
drugs. Well, I got news for
yeah.
you. SNRIs are drugs too, and medicine. uh, so we're so far behind on it and we're so scared of it still. We got this scared attitude about it that no, we can't do that. Well, people in Peru have been doing ayahuasca for thousands of years, and their warriors have been doing it for thousands of years to recover from trauma. I can't imagine that you
That to
continue to
me
do
that
shit for thousands of years if it's not doing something.
that is the value of like the research and the government adopting it and stuff, is just that it's becoming normalized and people are seeing it as a viable option and getting more access to it. And so kind of on that front, the last thing I wanted to ask you about, just from your personal experience before we weigh in further on all the politics and the bullshit of all this, what do you think, kind of with the perspective that you have now, is there anything that you would have done differently in terms of like the order of events? Or if not, maybe how would you kind of characterize the value of like the approach that you did
Oh,
take of microdosing as preparation and integration,
dude,
things like that?
I mean, you were with me in Peru. I think that my time in Peru would have been much worse had I not done all the work I did with
Yeah,
microdosing.
you would have had a rough time.
First
Yeah.
off, we had to get me off all of the medications, right? And I mean, at one point in time, not necessarily when we met, but at one point in my past, that was 26 pills a day, not 26 different meds, but 26 pills a day. It's a cereal bowl of goddamn pills every day. We had to get me off all of that crap. And so the microdosing certainly helped me with that, but it also really got me in the right headspace to go and accept the medicine and and I think really not have the traumatic, brutal experience in Peru that we were all sort of expecting for me. I mean, I think everybody was sort of like, "It's going to be good for Toby. This is going to be hard and ugly," and I did not find it hard and ugly. I found it extremely transformative. I found it extremely healing, and I found it in some ways almost gentle. Uh, you know, when what I was expecting was to be sort of tortured by the medicine. I was expecting this to not be what it was, and I can attribute that. I firmly believe I can attribute that to the microdosing programs we did prior and the work I had done for my own mental health. Uh, to create some better habits, to get into a better headspace, to get into a space that I was willing to accept medicine and accept help and accept that I needed help and that not just accept it, but I wanted it. I was looking for it, right? So I went to the medicine actually looking for that help. I went there saying,
Yeah.
I believe you can help me. And not only do I believe it, I want it. Like, help me, please. Right. And so I don't think I would change the order I did it in. Trying to come off of the alcohol without fixing the night terrors and the rage and all the rest of it would have not worked, I don't think. I think I did it exactly the right way. I eased my way in with microdosing, and I did a lot of prep work, and I got myself into a really good headspace to then go and do the big surgery, which was the aya, which then cleared out so much of that crap that I could then look at the vestiges that were left that weren't good, like the alcohol addiction, and say, okay, now I can look at this. Now I can take care of this because the root of that addiction has already been sorted, right? If you try to,
Yeah, well, like not to take anything away from the iboga, but again, it's like you had one. It was almost like a vestige of your problems that was left over, and it was just like this cleanup operation because you didn't need the alcohol anymore to solve those problems. You had solved it already.
yeah,
And this is what we talk about, like, hey, I'll do all this work, and then, hey, there's this one last thing I haven't been able to figure out. Can you help me with that?
yeah,
Instead of just, hey, can you do all my homework for me?
100%. I know guys who've gone to Ambio and have done the ibogaine and 5-MeO and had the same sort of transformative experience, right? For me, that wasn't what I was looking for when I went to iboga. It was just to get rid of the last issue that I didn't know that I could actually do myself. Or and also, hey, let's be honest. In life, some people want to hit an easy button, and when it came to that monster, alcohol, I really would like to have hit an easy button, and I asked for some help, and I got it, and it worked. So, yeah, I think the order I did it in was perfect. You know, I think that going into something like any one of these heavy things, whether it be ibogaine or ayahuasca, without preparation is a mistake, or can be a mistake. Not necessarily for everybody. My personal experience was that preparation was amazing. You know.
All right, man. What else would we need to talk about so that we don't have to do a part three?
Well, you know I love talking,
Because I,
man.
dude, I know, but I almost feel like now I'm the one who's like keeping you trapped in these fucking stories because I keep bringing it up. And this is why I wanted to have a place with just everything captured so I can just send this to
I'm
somebody
living
and they
rent
can
free in your
listen
head,
to it and
dude.
absorb all the wisdom. Oh, dude, 100%. But it's a testament to how fucking good you guys are that like you're a living example of this and you were able to distill it down into the bumper sticker wisdom that we can pass off to other people and hopefully be that shortcut that I'm still not sure really
Dude,
exists
the life
or
the
at
life
least
change
give.
is just I some days I just look back at it and I'm just like, holy shit. Like before I just when I met you guys, like the change between who I was then and who I am
Oh,
now
dude, you're
is
a
just
completely different
it's
person.
insane. Like I can't quantify it
Yeah.
sometimes when I try to explain to people and I'm like, oh yeah, night terrors. But you don't understand. It was 4 nights a week, waking up screaming, go back to sleep, wake up screaming, go back to sleep, wake up screaming, get up, walk around. That should clear it, right? No, lay down, wake up screaming. It was 4 nights a week. It was Sherry getting punched, Sherry getting grabbed. It was rage, holes in all our walls, all of this. And that all is, now I look at it and I'm like, who the fuck was that monster?
I was gonna say, does that almost not even feel real to
It
you?
does.
Like that happened to someone else, or like that was a dream that you went through?
I look back at it and the thing is my life is so goddamn great now after all of this work that it's hard to remind myself of how bad it was and where it was. And I mean that in itself is a testament to the work and how great I feel that it's hard to remember how bad it was because brother, it was just crap, right? But
Testament to the brain damage,
yeah,
Toby. You can't
100%.
remember.
Yeah, and it's funny. Like when I think about it, rage filled aphasia, addicted, pill dependent, addicted to alcohol, night terrors, having trouble speaking, having trouble communicating, having trouble not being able to deal with other human beings, like not being able to go to fucking Walmart. I used to joke that I go to Walmart out of spite just to force myself, right? But now it's like, man, we talk about travel, and I'm like, wow, Tokyo for a couple of days would be kind of neat. I'm like, really? Like, I wouldn't have said I don't like being in a room with six people, let alone, in a city with 6 million, So it's hard to quantify and remind myself, but when I do, it's incredible the change, and a lot of that's the medicine. A lot of it's me too. I did the work. Sherry did the work. We did the work together.
Wanting
Like
it bad
we
enough,
did
like you
so
said.
much work and we put ourselves into it completely. And I think that that's something that I would tell anybody who's looking at this stuff, man, is you have got to surrender yourself to the process. And that's again another one of those sort of 12-step things, right? You have to surrender yourself to this. You've got to admit that you're powerless. You sort of, at some point, walking into this, have to admit, I don't have dominion and control over any of this shit anymore, and I need to put that down. I need to surrender myself to this process. Hey? I don't
People
like
really
it.
don't like
No,
that,
nobody wants to.
especially men operator
Yeah.
types, because surrender sounds like defeat
Sure,
and
right, and
failure.
and so don't use the word surrender for yourself. Use whatever. But at the end of the day, I had to come into this saying, yeah, I'm pretty fucked up, and I'm not getting better, and everything I try isn't working. And now, years later, after the work, I understand that it wasn't working because I didn't want it to. I wasn't willing for it to work. But
Mm.
so I was in my own way on it. But I came into it saying, and I'm desperate and I need help and I want to get better a little bit. And then when I started to do the work with the microdosing, that want to get better went from being a little bit to, where I got to Peru and I could sit down with the medicine and say, I'm here. Fucking help me.
Wait, say that again. So you feel like the microdosing helped you want it more and
Yeah,
more and
well,
more?
here's the thing. I'll put it this way. I mean, you do BJJ, right? When you get better practicing, you see results, you want more of them. When I go to the gym and I lift weights and my muscles get bigger, I look in the mirror and I go, fuck, that looks good. I want more of that. How do I get more of this? And it was the same thing for me psychologically, I think. As I started to get a little better with the microdosing and I started to feel like I was healing, it was like, hey, wait a second, that felt pretty good. How do I get a little more of that? How do I get a little more of that? Right? And to the point where I was like, well, how I get this is by healing, and this is helping me to heal, and maybe the next step, the ayahuasca, is going to help me to heal big. I'm kind of open to this. I like this. I like this feeling of healing. I like feeling like a better human being. I like feeling like a human being that I like. So you get some real sort of, well, gratitude, but you get some real sort of joy out of feeling that you're getting better, right? In the gym you're getting stronger, mentally in these programs you're getting better, and if you can start to pull value from that, just from recognizing that you're doing a little better, and then and you use that as fuel to want it more. Hey, I felt better last week. I had 4 good days out of 7 last week. Man, I'd really like to have 5. you know how do I have 5? Well, I keep doing what I'm doing. Maybe add to it a bit. Maybe go a little deeper. Maybe try to be a little more honest in my journaling. Maybe try to be, maybe try, like, what can I do? Maybe make my intentions a little different. How do I get 5 days? Okay, I got 5 days. How do I get 6? How do I get 6 good days a week? When it used to be 1. And that snowballing really can help. And I think that it really helped me when I got to it put me in the headspace when I got to Peru, where I was like, I know that there is a world and a life on the other side of healing that could be amazing. And it turns out I was right, because it's pretty amazing. But I don't tell Sherry I was right. She never says I'm never right, but it just was like, I know that maybe there's hope there. And as I've said to you a million times, hope is one of my favorite words when it comes to healing. If you can give people hope, and this is part of the healing out loud, if you can give people hope, the power in that is just incredible, because hopelessness is what leads to suicide, to depression, to alcoholism, to drug addictions, all of that. That's hopelessness. People who have hope don't generally, unless they've got, chemical brain imbalances, don't generally find themselves in those situations. It's when they lose hope that you get there, right? And when I mentioned Gabor Mate, that's where I found hope. Before I even talked to you, that was just listening to him. I was like, holy shit, maybe there's some hope here. Maybe, maybe this isn't as good as it's going to get, which was my mindset before I met you and before I got into this. Was, this is as good as it's going to get, man. Like, this post Afghanistan, post war, post combat, post soldiering, this is me, and this is as good as it's going to get. And boy, was I fucking wrong.
Well, I'm very glad that you were proved wrong on that, man. And I hope this is gonna sound cheesy. I hope this podcast can give someone else hope who listens
I
to
hope
it.
so
So
too.
thank you very much, dude.
And bro, I it sort of stepped a little back from the advocacy world and that stuff, because all of this healing, it was like Sherry and I both sort of came to the point where like, I want to enjoy this for a while.
Well, that's the
We want the
point.
reward of this, of
Yeah.
not doing working with anybody, etc. We want to just get to be us for a bit and see how cool this is to be us, healed and better and healthy. I mean, we've got the best marriage of almost anybody I know. It's just incredible, right? And get to reap the rewards of that. But that being said, people can find me on Instagram, and I'm always available. You know, I can make myself available. I don't seek out advocacy right now, but I'm also always available because it's part of the healing out loud. It's uh when you decide you're going to heal out loud, you make a bit of a covenant with those who are in trouble out there. I'll answer the phone, kind of thing, right? So I won't answer the phone because I hate phones, but I will answer your messages.
He'll text you back. Dude, beautiful. Thank you so much, Toby. I really appreciate you. I love you
Love
guys.
you,
Can't wait
brother.
to see you again
It's
sometime.
great to talk to you, and I'm always available, man. We can do part three if you want someday, but it might be from
All
Thailand.
right. Dude, hell yeah. Or better yet, in person one day, man.
Well,
That's
there
what I
you
hope
go.
for.
You know, you never know. Depending on what happens, maybe I'll see you in Austria this summer.
But that would be sick, actually. All right, man.
All right.
Thank you. Let's call
Love
it
you,
a
brother.
day. So that should be it for me and Toby for a while. Like I said, I feel like we captured most of the wisdom that we have. Hopefully, I do see Toby, and of course, I'll continue talking to Toby because I love him, and hopefully, you love him too. And he really did mean what he said at the end there. He truly is somebody that you can reach out to, somebody who is there for a lot of other people online. He's had to take breaks from that or step back from that over the years for his own mental health, but he really does want to be somebody who gives back to other people. So if something you heard him say in this episode or in our previous one really resonated with you, I definitely would encourage you to check him out on Instagram, follow his page there, and maybe send him a message saying that you heard him on the show and you want to talk about XYZ thing. I'm sure that he would have time for that, and I'm sure that he would steer you in a good direction. Thank you for listening to this. Keep on healing out loud so others don't have to suffer in silence, and keep on fucking with the dick that God gave you. All right, I'm so sorry. Please, God, forgive me for the foul language. All right, peace out. That's enough for this one. God bless you. Talk to you soon. Bye bye.